Hi guys, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Jess.
I'm Caitlin.
And we are a married lesbian couple in Southern California. We have 3 8-month-olds. So we have triplets, 2 boys and a girl, Arlo, Rowan, and Aiden. They are donor conceived. And tonight we are going to talk about donor conception.
I am not the father. Even though one of my sons calls me Dada. And we legit think he thinks my name is Dada.
Yes, he has started calling her Dada, and it's pretty hilarious.
I just roll with it, whatever.
Whatever. We will accept whatever names they give us.
Sure.
Anyway, back to our donor conception story. We originally chose an anonymous donor through a sperm bank here in San Diego. So that means that we do not know him. We have no relation to him. We have no friendship with him. Nothing. He is a number to us that we picked based on certain traits and everything. When the triplets were first born, on TikTok, we were asked if we would ever let the kids meet the donor. And back then we were, I guess, would you say uneducated?
It's probably the best word.
Yeah. Uneducated in terms of how donor conceived adults view the entire situation. So our response to that question was less than ideal, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and not trying to what's the word I'm looking for? Trying to make excuses. That's what I was gonna say.
We're not
trying to
making
make excuses or anything, but that was also a very high stress time.
Absolutely. Our babies were in the NICU still. We had literally just had them.
Yeah, I think, I don't even remember the logistics, but the question came about from another video. I think we were already kind of upset with that question.
Potentially. I'd have to look back at it.
But
the question was worded, it was worded would we ever let them meet their dad?
Right.
And so
that was the leading factor on the whole video.
Yeah.
But anyways, we, like Jess said, I think we were a little uneducated about how donor conceived adult children feel about it and how our children will feel about it. Yeah. And we were just looking through it through
our own
eyes and our own experiences. So.
I mean, and we did think about how they would feel, but we also I don't want to say we assumed how they would feel. I don't know how to quite word this sentence. We thought about how they would feel, but we knew that we were going to provide them with a loving home and education, and always willing to let them explore and learn about themselves. That we didn't really think that it would be an issue necessarily, because we also did a follow-up video to that response video about how if they were to ever find the donor and wanted to connect with him, or if they found donor conceived siblings and wanted to connect with them, that's all their choice, and we would help them in any way that we could. And obviously if they did an ancestry DNA, blah blah blah, all of that, that we were fine with whatever they chose, but we chose an anonymous donor for a reason, etc., etc.
Right.
And recently we learned that our donor has actually changed his status, so he is now an open ID donor, which means when the children become 18, they can request a meeting with him or contact with him, which is actually really cool. And now that we have spoken to some donor conceived adults and done a little bit more research into it, we see where we were very, very wrong in our way of thinking, which we probably should have, in hindsight, educated ourselves more before having donor-conceived children. But hindsight's always 20/20, and all we can do is the best that we can in the moment. So this is us kind of putting our foot in our mouth, so to speak. And we are very open for our children to reach out to the donor when they are older. And if they want to use the term biological dad or father, whatever they choose, like, we will respect that, obviously, which I think we would have previously before educating ourselves as well. Like, that is completely up to them and their terms.
And to be clear, we were like, if you haven't seen that video, we were never against the kids potentially meeting him. It was just, we were explaining that we had a closed donor.
Yes.
He was an anonymous donor, and that unless, like Jess was saying, unless he registered on this some type of DNA platform and they did that and they were both open to wanting to meet, they probably would never
cross
meet.
paths.
So now that he is an open donor, if one or two or all three of them choose that they want to meet him, everyone's different. Maybe none of them will want to meet them, maybe all of them will, whatever. They now have that opportunity, and it's going to be much more fluent and easier for them to have that relationship with him.
Yes.
Which we ultimately hope for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately, like, now, like I said, educating ourselves on it, like, we do hope that they do want to reach out and meet him. And maybe even, like, we will get to meet him one day, like, if he wants to meet us, because we would like the opportunity to, like, sit down and shake his hand and say, hey, thanks, dude. Like, because of you and this very selfless thing that you did, like, we got to raise these 3 amazing human beings. And I think that that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, he deserves to be recognized for that, because it is a very selfless thing to give a part of yourself to other people that you don't even know, for them to do this incredible thing of parenting that we get to do because of him. Mm-hmm. And, like, out of the millions of people that donate, like, we chose him for a reason. So I think it would be really cool, but obviously, like, that will be his choice later on whether or not he wants to meet us, but, like, we're super open to it. And what's really cool is the bank that we went through is pretty small, so they have a very select few donors, and they only do, like, a limited number of donations. So, like, their donor siblings, like, they're not going to have, like, hundreds of donor siblings out there. We also know that he's about our age. Mm-hmm. So, and we know what age he was when he donated. Like, that information we were able to figure out through his donor profile. So we know that if they do have any donor siblings right now, they are all young. They're, like, 5 years old or younger. So, like, right now they're all really young, so I don't know if any of them are even registered with the donor sibling registry. But there is an organization called Donor Sibling Registry, and we do plan on getting them registered through them. I don't know at what point we are actually going to do that, but we do plan on doing it for them. That way, when they are old enough to want that information, then they can connect with donor siblings as well. And they, like I said, if they have any right now, they would all be kind of close-ish around their age, just based on when he donated and how old he is and stuff. Mm-hmm. But what's really cool, as I was saying, sorry, I went off on a tangent. I tend to do that. But what I was saying is, what's really cool is because our bank is a smaller, more exclusive bank, they handle that first initial interaction themselves. So when the kids turn 18, if they do want to initiate contact with our donor, they would reach out to our fertility clinic and say, hey, like, this is our donor number, like, we want to meet him. And again, that goes like the kids can file individually. If one is ready on their 18th birthday and the other two aren't, they can register as a group to meet him because they are triplets. They were all born at the same time. Or if the one's ready and the rest aren't, like they can register individually as they become ready. And the fertility clinic initiates that initial contact. So they then reach out to the donor and see where he is at and how he would like to do that first meeting. So it can be over the phone, it can be just exchanging emails. They facilitate all of that initial meeting, and then any meetups or communication thereafter is completely up to the donor and our kids, which I think is really cool because it kind of gives some form of like security. They're not just like, here's his contact info, like go meet him at a coffee shop or something. Like it's kind of structured and secure.
Yeah.
And like they're there to kind of like
groundwork.
Yeah, they're there to kind of like mediate things a little bit for that first meeting.
Yeah. So it's really exciting. Remember when Jess came to me and told me that he was open, and it was just like excitement from both of us. Like we sat down and we talked about this, and I think we were both a little like, I don't know how the other one's gonna react because of previous conversations, but you know, you live and you learn and you grow. And as I was telling Jess when we were talking, like I think it's different when you don't see your children, and then when you see them, like it's just so different. Like being a first-time parent, like you can talk about how you're gonna raise your kids and what you're gonna do and all this stuff, and then when you actually, they're here and you see them and you like interact with him, it's totally different.
It's totally different.
And I think that played a lot of it too, just in general, like educating ourselves and maturing, and then like seeing them and holding them and like
seeing traits that like I know they don't get from me,
like little pieces of the donor in them, and loving that, and just like
I'm pretty sure they have his toes.
His toes. Like Arlo looks just like him. There's no denying it, and I love it. Like I think
like he's so cute.
Yeah, and I like openly say it. I think as the mother that's not biological or didn't carry them or really have any, you know, function in them actually coming into life, I think I'll just speak for myself. Like there was some fears. Am I gonna bond with them? Am I going to be jealous that they look like him and not me, or look more like him than Jess? And like all those fears are very real fears, and I think that it was just really cool to like not have those fears, and then just them totally like dissipate and just love everything about my children that I know they get from the donor. And it's like amazing because you love these little things, and it makes you love this stranger, this strange man that you've never met. You just love him, and it's like, you know, little pieces of him, but you don't actually know him.
So we have a lot of love for our donor. Like he gave us the greatest gift, and I hope that even though he doesn't know that they exist at this point, like I hope some part of him spiritually somewhere, because he was a very spiritual person, I hope that somehow he knows, and that somehow he knows that we're extremely grateful for him,
and that they're being raised in a very loving household with very similar ideologies and beliefs that he had, which was one of the main reasons why we picked him.
And like I was saying, like I think a lot of like our views on the whole thing, like a lot of it came with seeing them and caring for them and loving them and wanting to thank this other person, and a lot of it came with maturity. Like we matured a lot in the last 8 months of being parents, and part of me thinks that maybe he did some maturing too, and that's why he changed his status from anonymous to open. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to have that conversation with him one day. Because he was 24 when he donated, so still very young.
Just doing it for some beer money or something. Who knows?
Who knows?
Just making an assumption, but
who knows why, like what his big reasonings behind it were. But I mean, based on his profile.
Based on his profile, he very clearly wanted to do this.
He wanted to do this as a selfless act. But like, all jokes aside, like, he very clearly wanted to give to a family. He wrote like a little note, which like put him over the top when we read it, about like why he chose to donate. And yeah, I don't know. I guess like he was young when he donated, and even though like we weren't very, very young when we decided to have kids, like maturity, parenting wise, we were immature.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone that's had a child, it's so crazy. Like, you mature instantly overnight.
Yeah.
And like, things in life, you have a totally different perspective on everything.
Yeah.
And your whole life is about your kids.
Yep.
And caring for them and making them happy. And I think that's where we both very quickly realized that we made a mistake.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And the mistake she's talking about is the fact that
having children. I'm just kidding.
Is the fact that, like, immature wise, like, we did seek out, I mean, we didn't seek out an anonymous donor, but
we wanted an anonymous donor, like, for various reasons at that time in our life.
And we were
it's okay to say that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't like seek out an anonymous donor. Like, we were open to an open donor, but we like kind of, I want to say, maybe even preferred an anonymous donor just based on our own, like, honestly selfish reasons at the time, selfish and immature. But having matured, like, yeah, we did make a mistake in that, and I'm glad that we will get the opportunity to fix or correct that mistake in the way that, like, we will now get to present to our children that, like, you get the opportunity to connect with him if you choose to.
Yeah, at least it's there. That door is open.
Exactly.
For them. And if
that
they
door is
close
open,
it, then they close it.
A lot easier than the other routes we would have had to take to help them connect. Because even before we knew that he was an open donor, like, we had talked about, like, letting them do a DNA, like, test of some sort, ancestry DNA or something, at like a really young age, or even doing it now on them or something. I don't know if there's an age limit, but like doing that ahead of time so that when they were ready, like, they had those answers, but that wouldn't necessarily connect them to him unless he did it also. So finding him would have been a lot harder to do had he not opened up his status. So I think everything happened the way it did for a reason, and we're grateful for the way everything happened. Like, we're grateful that he was anonymous when we found him, because that helped in our decision to pick him, because we were hoping for an anonymous donor at that time, and everything else about him just, like, checked all of our boxes. And I'm happy that he went back and changed his status to open.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess in conclusion,
don't be a dick.
Yeah. And own your part when you are wrong, like we are. And if you are a family that is looking into donor conception, whether that's a sperm donor or an egg donor or even surrogacy, do some more research into donor-conceived adults. Talk to some donor-conceived adults. Talk to children that were carried through surrogacy. Was a hard sentence for me to say. Because there is, even though, like, if through a surrogacy, like, there's still a connection to the person that carries and grows the child and the child, even if there is no DNA relation between the surrogate and the child. Like, there's still a connection there. And that needs to be explored, and
or at least the option to explore.
Like, hey, this is the person that carried you. And like, again, on the reverse side, like the person that carried them, you know, has an emotional connection to them also. So, you know, do your research, talk to people, do better than we did.
That's why we're here.
Yep. And just know, like, at the end of the day, like, if you are in the boat that we used to be in, of like having an anonymous donor, like, and having been uneducated on it, like, you can always do better. You can always try to correct situations to the best of your abilities, such as allowing your children to do a DNA test earlier in life, and not making them wait till they're 18. Help them find those answers if they want them. But there's always a way to do better and to clean up your side of the street.
Good job.
Do you have anything else to add?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I think we're good. Thank you guys for watching and listening to our rant and loving and accepting us as human beings.
Yep. We're human, we're not perfect, but
we're just out here doing the best we can and learning and growing every day. All right. Bye.
Bye.